Do you find yourself losing more arguments and debates than you would like? Do you find yourself trying to communicate your thoughts, but you get caught in this 5 to 10 second attention span most people seem to have nowadays, and then they interrupt you or argue with you and say their own opinions and they don't even listen to you, right? If that's you, I'm gonna lay out a 5-step proven formula that works for me to nearly every time win every argument and debate. I kid you not, it literally helps me win every argument and debate that I come in contact with. Now, here's the thing. If you're not subscribed and you don't like this video, more people won't see this formula and won't be changed just like you will be. So make sure to like and subscribe. Let's dive in. The first step is to actually avoid arguments in the first place. Now, hear me out. I'm like, yeah, well, obviously, Jonathan, but hold on. So here's the thing. There's this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you've heard it, there's a lot of people that have read this book. It's almost 100 years old, but he talks about in order to get people onto your way of thinking, you actually need to make them feel important. Everyone has a sense of pride about themselves, and when somebody feels attacked, they're going to defend themselves, right? It's a normal way of communicating and interacting with humans. But if you try that attack and try to argue and try to rebuttal and try to refute, most people are going to defend their position and not listen to you. The way to get them onto your way of thinking is to actually agree with them, even though they might be wrong. And the way to do this, step 1, is avoid arguments in the first place. Just avoid them when you can. Now, if you obviously have to go into an argument or you're going into debate publicly or just with one-on-one, then step 2 is to set a premise. Most people don't do this, and I don't know why. Even in the public debates and everything, they don't set premises for these debates. And it boggles my mind that most people don't do this. I literally win almost every argument or debate that I have. And why? Well, I do this. I set a premise, and the premise is I value this. If you truly speak the truth in this, right? But I value the relationship. I value a relationship, and I want this to be a win-win situation. I don't want you to feel like you're not heard or validated. So my hope with this conversation is that we can get into this argument or this debate, but realize this is not going to change our relationship. You know, especially if it's a loved one or close one. Like, I love you, I trust you, I want you to know that we're just going to work this out, right? And if there's emotions tied to this, maybe we need to take a break. So setting up this premise of like, I want to understand what you're going through. I want to understand what you're saying because I know I'm human. I know I might be wrong. I've been wrong before, and I might actually be wrong in my bias, in my opinion, and what I think. Now, I feel really strongly about the way I do, but help me understand your point of view. That way, we're on the same page. You see what I did there? By setting up this premise, it not only makes them feel important, it makes them see that you're truly trying to understand. And that moves to step 3, which is set a goal, set the winning of the argument to actually understand versus convert, right? Versus change. Try to understand versus change the person. That's why I win every argument. And that's kind of the hook for this video is I actually win every argument because I understand the other person before I even talk about what they are. And if they ask me first to go, then I'll go, but then I quickly move into step 4, which is listen more than you speak. Listen more than you speak. Like, I can tell you, like, every argument that involves some sort of political, pro-life, religion, some of these very hot topics, if I'm not listening to the other person and I'm just spewing what I think, my thoughts, my opinions, my bias, all that stuff, they're not going to listen to me. They're already thinking of the next thing to say. And when in a debate, if you're thinking of the next thing to say and you're not actually listening to the person, you don't understand what they're saying. You don't ask those clarifying questions. And that's the problem. That's why it's so important to listen more than you speak, because when in a debate, you're trying to defend your position, right? But often we as humans just want to feel heard and validated. We want to make sure that we're coming across and articulating our ideas, because there's this thing, I'm going to tell you this right now, there's this thing in communication most people don't get through their thick skulls, and it's the fact that you have an idea, but when you say it, it's not the same as the idea that's in your head. You have a hard time articulating it, especially if it's something like an emotion. You might have a hard time articulating it. So you say something, you might not exactly mean word for word, but you're trying to articulate this idea out, and it takes longer than 5 to 10 seconds. Right? So then the person listening hears it and perceives it a certain way that might be completely different to what you're thinking in the first place. So you've got this disparity. You've got this huge problem where nobody's understanding each other because you're not listening to each other. Now, there's a tool for step 4, which is called reflective listening, that can get you through this. And you may know this already, may not, but it comes from the book People Skills by, I think, Dr. Robert Bolton or something. Anyway, I'll link it down below as well to check out. But this book talks about reflective listening and actually being able to understand the other person without compromising your view of what you're talking about. The tool is to use a hook phrase like, so what you're saying is, so what I hear you saying is, or something along those lines. As the person listening, reflectively listen. So what you're saying is this. So what you're saying is this. And help me understand this. I'm curious about what you mean when you said this. Help me understand this. Because, and again, this comes back to, well, yeah, this may not be effective, Jonathan, because we're going head to head, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But that, if you set up the premise and you agree to live by your premise in step 2 and agree to your goal of truly listening versus trying to change, you'll get there. And I tell you, every time I do this, whether I may not actually go through all, like verbally say all these things, but it's intuitive. Some people kind of have this naturally in them, but intuitively set, or if you have to, verbalize these steps, verbalize the actual premise and goal of the argument, and then listen more than you speak. And then step 5 is to be grateful, is to be thankful and actually thank the other person. So once you're done arguing, you're like, okay, we just got to agree to disagree. Or, oh, that makes a lot of sense. You've changed because you've truly tried to actively listen, or vice versa. You finished the argument, you finished the debate, okay? Then you need to make sure, and this is part of it, this is key, thank them for listening. So if I'm going to be thanking them, I'll be like, thank you so much for hearing me out. I really feel heard and validated that you did that. I'm so grateful that you asked those clarifying questions. I'm really happy that we were able to come to an understanding, even though we still disagree on our opinions or biases, I actually understand where you're coming from, and I've changed now because of that. We had the goal to understand, and I ended up changing. Or the goal to understand, but we didn't change, but now at least we understand where we're coming from. We fundamentally disagree on these things, but we understand. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being patient with me. Because most people don't go through this 5-step formula, being very grateful and appreciation, as Dale Carnegie says, hearty in your approbation, lavish in your praise, right? It's this idea of being grateful for the conversation. I dare you, I challenge you at the end of this video, go have a debate with someone about something you disagree on. Set the premise, set the goal to understand, not to change, and listen more than you speak. And at the end, thank them and be grateful. Imagine the impact this would have for politicians, for the pro-life movement, for people, this whole vaccine thing. The COVID pandemic, people arguing on polar opposites, the segregation, the ethnic communities, all these things, the big conversations in our world today, if we simply followed this 5-step formula, the world would be a different place. We'd all seek to understand, not to, change other people. We'd seek to understand each other, because when we are truly have a heart for understanding, we open that internal mental door to learn, right? When you seek to understand, you open that door to learn, and learning leads to change. Learning leads to transformation, not rebuttals, refuting, arguments, you're wrong all the time, nonstop, not listening to the other person. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I challenge you, the next time you're in an argument or debate, consciously stop yourself if you can, and remember this video. Bookmark this video, subscribe, like, get this video in your bookmarks, save it, download it, I don't care, pirate it off the internet onto your desktop so you have it. Use this video to your advantage. These 5 steps are going to change your life. They've changed my life, and they will change yours too. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much. If you had any value out of this, just make sure to comment down what your story is. What did I miss in terms of conversation, arguing? This is my take on it. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, do all the things, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. You're awesome.